So, hello everyone, and welcome to the first of our 4-week health and wellness webinars from the ICBE Aviation Skillnet. Today our presenters are once again high performance and executive coaches Jason Kenny and Declan Dore from KD Corporate Wellness. Jason is a fitness and nutrition specialist, sports psychology coach, and has a degree in training and education. He is an active competitor, having represented Ireland abroad, winning several world, European and Irish titles. He's also a martial arts instructor with over 30 years experience. Declan is an inspirational trainer and executive coach. Having recovered from a life-threatening brain injury where he was told he would possibly never walk, talk or get the use of his face back again, Declan now teaches tools for mental wellness to survive and thrive in both your personal and work lives. Today's topic is becoming a business athlete. Over the course of 30 minutes, our speakers will guide us through using the learnings from the world of high-performance athletes to make us business athletes by focusing on mindset, focus on learning outcomes, concentration and preparation, visualization, and continual betterment. The ground rules for today: Jason and Declan will present for approximately 20 minutes, finishing up with a 5 to 10 minute Q&A. Everyone is muted, but we really do encourage you to submit questions or comments via the chat function, which we will call out at the end of the presentation. If you hover over your screen, that function should pop up on the bottom or the top or the bottom. If you encounter problems with broadband, Jason and Declan might need to turn off their cameras. This session is being recorded. And without further delay, I'll pass you over to the trusted hands of Declan and Jason from KD Corporate Wellness.
Thanks a million, Owen. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate everyone being online here this morning to listen to ourselves. I suppose this is a topic that's kind of near and dear to our own hearts. We really and truly, I suppose, kind of look into this in a more in-depth way because we all have a tendency to be, I suppose, a great achiever and a great performer, but we need to really be clear about what's the difference between the two. Actually, do you know what we're going to do? I think we might just even start with a very quick poll question, if that's okay with you, Owen.
And we might jump over the poll just for a moment. Poll function seems to have gone down just for the moment. So if you call it out and ask people, just put it into chat.
Yeah, so do you want to call it?
Yeah, so the question we were going to put up there in the poll is, would you consider yourself a high achiever or a high performer? So A or B, would you be a high achiever or a high performer? And you might just put that into the chat. We'll have a look here and see. And, we can go through it then and show you the mentality. Oh, it's working.
It's working, is it, Owen?
Yeah, it's just come back again. a bit of overlap, apologies.
That's all right.
So which are you? Would you consider yourself a high achiever or a high performer? And we'll get the results here then in a second.
It's a tricky question, this one. It's not, you have to think about what it actually means. Here, I'll share the results with you now.
Oh, wow.
50-50, 50% each. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right. So, okay, some of the chat questions came in there as well. We'll just have to spot on that as well. That's brilliant. Cool. So I suppose to look at it from, I suppose, a high achiever versus a high performer, they're very, very different. A high achiever is basically someone who basically ticks all the boxes, has a very good work ethic, gets through things, gets it done, and often is driven by, I suppose, the big payout at the end of the week or the month, or that big sales kill, whatever it is that they're after. And in terms of even sometimes the difference between even and an immature, I suppose the reason why we have an athlete here is because the comparison that we're making is to be a business athlete rather than just simply be a business achiever. So what we've done is the comparison between the two with the high performer and the high achiever. The high performer is someone who is very much focused on the process rather than just simply the end result. They look deeply into how they can actually get to where they need to get to be by aligning all the different processes within their life, not just simply within that one area. So we often do, and I'm sure many people on this call have done 1,000,001 courses, and at the end of the day, they don't really align with what they're actually doing, even in their current position today. And that is the difference with a high performer. A high performer has a tendency to try and align things up directly in line with what it is they're trying to do themselves and what they want to achieve eventually, which becomes the ultimate goal. And that either a medal, trophy, or, as I said, that big payout or big success in terms of a contract, high contract, or sales.
So stuck in old school mentality. So be a hard worker, work with your strengths, be grateful, be passionate. So these are all very, very important, you know, aspects to being a high performer or high achiever. Is, you know, it's very, very important to be passionate about what you do. And sometimes it's very hard to be passionate about certain things that you might be doing in your job or in your workplace. But if you can get zoned in on one or two areas of the workforce, what you're doing, and get passionate about that, it will kind of trickle into other areas of what you're doing. And a lack of certain parts of one's habits and personality may explain why some people are gifted sports athletes but simply don't thrive at an elite level. And you'd often hear this even in the, let's say, the boxing world, where you could actually you have some boxers, they'd be incredible in the gym, but then when it goes to turning on the lights and stepping into the ring, they actually not able to step up and step into the actual high elite level. So it's just a matter of seeing yourself, where do you see yourself in what you're doing, and then trying to get and generate passion in what it is that your goal is.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, a lot of the time with high performers, the whole, I suppose what sets them out from the rest is they're really focusing in on what other people can't see. And your brain produces something like 16 trillion bits of information per second, which is incredible when you think about it. But it's more or less on a subconscious level. But the likes of most of us, we only pick up around 2,000 of those. But what a high performer does, he or she sits back and they take in as much possible information and they correlate that information before the action is made. And I think that's kind of the major difference between the two. So just moving on to the next slide. Basically, just going to move this out of the way here. I have my screen all messed up this morning in here. Right, so a strong sense of motivation. Right, so basically it's not just as simple as we said earlier on, the big payout, or, you know, like you have the winning cup or trophy or whatever it is. It's so much more than that. It's all about, it's when they go to the gym or when they're trying to do something, it's all about winning that experience and winning that moment. They enjoy it, they enjoy the journey, they enjoy the process, and it really helps them to capitalize on who they are as individuals. I suppose they were doing a lot of studies. They did an awful lot of studies even with the Navy SEALs, and they do a thing with buds. It's called Hell Week. And what they do is they bring you on before you get into Navy SEAL school to become a Navy SEAL. And they have an 80% dropout rate. So the American government spent $3 million putting people through this. I mean, that's an insane amount of money. So what they looked at was said, well, let's see if we can focus in on what is it that makes that 20%? What is it that makes those people, those high performers? How can we tap into that? So they spent tens of millions trying to figure that out. And they came up with all sorts of things and all sorts of bits and pieces and the whole lot. And they went back and they said, right, we select these amount of people to go through. And they hoped that these people would now increase the amount of success rate within the BUDS training, that Hell Week. But guess what? The result was the exact same. There was an 80% dropout, and they couldn't believe it. So eventually, when it came down to what they decided what it could be, what can it be that's actually making these high performers different and so unique? And they discovered it was a simple word called grit. And they were like, I mean, when you think of that word and if you're to actually analyze that word and you're to take a step back and to look at it, you say, well, what is actually grit? Grit is the actual ability to endure and suffer to push through when nobody else does, to take that extra step and go that extra mile. And I think that's the difference with a high performer and a high performance athlete.
So here's some tips in regards to what we just covered there. It's about align what you do daily with work, relationships, health, etc. And sometimes that can be more difficult some days than it can be for others. But it's important to kind of track what it is you're doing. And what I mean by tracking, it's sometimes good to write down, your progress, what your goals are, what you want to achieve. And that also is very important when it comes to relationships as well. And avoid the technology crutch. Technology won't save us. These are only tools, great to track, quantify, but not checking in with people, and especially themselves. That's the key thing when it comes to technology is sometimes we're so connected these days that we're actually disconnected from ourselves. So if you think about that, we're so connected, we're actually disconnected from ourselves. So hours put in but destroy relationships, health, push away friends, family, and even a mentor. So it's important to look at, where it is in your life do you want to go or what you're doing, and track it, write it down, put an actual plan together of what it is you want to achieve in the work or in your relationships or with your health especially.
Yeah, it's a key area, and it's something that a lot of people, and we find that people who burn out have this problem, is they're fantastic at, as I said, ticking the box and getting done what needs to be done. The problem is they don't take into account what's happening to themselves. They need to check in with themselves on a regular basis, and that includes family, friends, and all other relationships as well. So it really is that alignment. It's not even about that balance, but more alignment. So this is an interesting one, and again, it's about not working that 10,000 hours. It's really about, if you look at what a high performance individual does, you can see here quite clearly that the top 5% of corporate high performance individuals are 40% more likely to exercise more on a weekly basis and look after their health. So they're also taken into account from not just being a business point of view, but they're taking into account how they are themselves functioning as individuals, and if they can bring this to the table and be their most optimal self. So the high performance is achieved in a certain set of practices, and I think the key word here is consistency. For anything to be successful, it's to get through, and it's not just to plod along, but it's to be consistent, to keep the same set of standards. And like Declan said, you need to write it down, you put that on paper, and you keep that constant set of standards, and you work towards those. So a healthy approach to living and a high performance life with full engagement. So it's all about engaging in the both. And again, it's being your best self and not just doing 10,000 hours and ticking the box and then at the end of it moving on to the next thing. You need to be consistent and line everything up.
So when it comes to inner desire to succeed, high performance biggest competition is themselves. So that's actually the biggest driving force for certain high performance is what's going on in between the 2 inches between your ears. So what's actually going on inside your own mindset. And it compels a high performer to bring his or her best effort every time. No matter what is given, the given goal is, it's always important to step back and actually realize whatever's going on out externally, what's really the biggest thing to focus on is what's actually happening in your own thought process. So whatever, like what's going on for us all now at the moment with the COVID-19 and the lockdown and all that sort of stuff, it's how are you, dealing with it with your own thought process. What's going on for you in your own mindset is very, very important.
Yeah, it's brilliant because this is a good slide, because it really is important to understand that stress isn't such a big issue for a high performer. It's not that they don't experience it, they absolutely do. It's just that they try to perform at their best. They try to take it as an opportunity to prove themselves that they can do it, and that's the way they deal with it. A lot of us will find that stress will build up, and it can be one of the biggest problems for someone becoming a high performer, not being able to manage and deal with the stress. We have a process in the brain, and it's a way of basically blocking things out. and it's almost what we would call a blind spot. It's called scotoma, and it's a great way of stopping other things and allowing other things in. So it's something that people look at and have studied immensely on, is what is this and how can this be used in advantage to be able to block out certain elements and get done what needs to be done.
So tips, we'll give some. So set a target today and beat it tomorrow. So when it comes to high performance, it's always important to write something down and set yourself targets and goals, whatever that might be. It could be writing a things to do list down, but the key with writing a things to do list down is to prioritize it, not just to jump into one task, into another task, into another. Try and prioritize what that goal is by the end of the day you want to achieve and get something done. It's something that we're big believers in, is try and pick 3 things out of a list instead of trying to get 10 things done, and focus on 3 tasks at a time and complete them and get them done. And always believe you can. Sometimes it means changing your complete mindset and breaking the norm. It's trying to have an attitude of, okay, there's a problem here, but there is a solution to the problem. If you can kind of instill that into your own mindset, where you become solution focused rather than looking at the problems, it really does have a massive benefit, and it can have a domino effect as well with those around you.
Yeah, stepping outside that comfort zone, isn't it? Yeah, and just breaking away from the norm, I think, is a really important one here in this. Yeah, so being consistent, again, this is one we're going to probably harper on about. Consistency is key. We find that with everything we do right across the board, from nutrition, exercise, business leadership, you name it, it's right across the board. Consistency is everything. If you can be consistent, it's hard to do, but being good for a set period of time is one thing. But the difference between a high performer is they're consistent, and that they bring that same consistency to everything they do, and they develop it and they work with it, and this is what makes them a success, basically.
So looking forward to new things, high performers love challenges, are more confident, not arrogant. They will achieve their goals despite adversity. And I think there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. It's a fine line. But you meet a lot of high performers out there, and they're very, very confident within their abilities and what they do. And it's just, that's true practice, that's true repetition, that's being consistent with what they do. And they know they've put in the work, so that's why they feel so confident. So it's not about self-doubt. They believe in their abilities to figure things out and cope better with stress. So just like Jason spoke about there shortly ago, it's all about, we all have stress, but it's how you deal with stress. And it's trying again to, as the weeks go on here, we're going to be sharing tools and techniques with you on how to deal with that and overcome that. But the key here as well is to just acknowledge when you do have stress, try and release it, and then focus in on a solution to whatever might be going on.
Yeah, it's all about managing that meaning of stress, isn't it? It's about what you need to step back and ask yourself, how is this going to benefit me? What am I going to get out of this? What am I feeling right now? And remember, it's an opportunity to perform, and that's the way you need to look at it. So let's look at some of the tips on that. So it's about enjoying the challenge, again, harping on about that. And it's looking forward to the process and going through it and taking themselves outside that comfort zone, looking for the learning and development. Again, it's about winning that experience. It's winning and learning. It's not winning and losing and going back to the drawing board and being upset about what it is. It's actually going back to the drawing board and saying, that's brilliant, let's move forward. Let's take those problems that we may have encountered, issues that may have arisen, let's use them, let's build on this and keep building that toolbox. Again, they take that stress factor and they compartmentalize things, they put things into order. But in the moment, they're present right now. And again, think of that thing we're talking about, scotoma, where they're able to block it out. There's no point you bring in issues from home to a job when everyone else is not aware of the situation, or it's nothing to do with them, and you're applying that emotion, that feeling into your work. You need to be able to switch off, and that's the difference. You need to be there, do your job and focus. this is a really important part. And again, asking for help, and not just simply being a perfectionist. You've got to really look at that from the point of view of overdoing things and not being able to be part of a team.
What I might want to do is bring up the second poll there, if that's okay.
Sure.
When you up, so you put up that, that'd be fantastic. Just for before we do the next slide.
Yeah,
So the question we have here: when you upskill, do you do it for personal reasons, professional reasons, or do you do it because of both? You want to actually improve both personally and professionally. So whatever you do to upskill yourself, what's the reason you do it for? What's the intention behind it? Is it personally, professionally, or do you do it for both? And we see here now in a second what that comes up at. Okay, the results.
Here you go.
Very good.
Spot
on. 100% is for both.
Oh, I love it. And it's funny because we only said this at the start that we were interested to see, and we said, well, there's only one really good, correct answer, and it's both. So
Brilliant.
Hats off and kudos to everyone. Yeah.
So the next one is the sense of belonging. It's all about, being a team player. High-performing athletes all share a sense of belonging. For successful team players, this means feeling part of the team and knowing they play a valuable role. So like a perfect example there, Paul O'Connell, what an athlete, what an incredible team player. But he knows his role, he knows what he's good at. Like, he was never going to be a Simon Zebo. He was never going to be flying up and down the wings. He knew his role. So it's important to know you have a role in whatever you're doing, and play into that role. You've got your strengths. Focus in on your strengths and delegate out what you know that you possibly can do. It's good to actually empower someone else to do it.
Yeah, and it's building up your teammates, and I think this picture really does it here. It's all about taking ideas on board, working with those ideas, and becoming a leader in your own right. Each individual should be a leader, and they should really bring their best every single time to the project. So just looking at ego there, ego is one of those ones that I suppose we left for a few seconds just to pop in, but I think it can be very healthy. And it's how we deal with ego. We have a tendency to be overly cocky, but I think the real word here is about not just being arrogant, but being confident, being assertive, being able to decide and decipher what works and what doesn't work. And ego is a very, very dangerous thing, and we all have it in certain shapes or form, and anyone who says they don't have it is telling lies. And it can be down to whether you're good at painting, or you're good at running, or you're good at maths, or whatever it is you're good at. It doesn't really matter. Ego can take over and feel that I'm better than next, or I do it better.
So staying in control, so a strong sense of focus. The key is to remain in the moment regardless of how bad a day you had or who is watching. Now that can be more difficult than others. We all go through phases maybe in our day where we just feel completely out of kilter and we really don't want to be here, or we don't want to be doing what we're doing. But it's all about coming back, stepping away for what might be going on for you, especially if you're in a stressful situation. Try your best to remove yourself from that and maybe just go for a quick walk. It could be for 2 or 3 minutes, or get some water into you, shake your body out, do a few breathing exercises, and that will bring you right back into the moment.
Yeah, trust in the process. I 100% is speaking on my own behalf, and I know Declan's the same. You've got to trust the process, and sometimes we can really doubt that. I see it all the time, and I saw it myself when I was competing. It was the exact same thing. You start to doubt the process. The formula works, stick with it, continue it, don't break from it. Once you've got a formula that works for you, you've got to keep using that formula.
And then learn from setbacks. Loss is inevitable. Forget about other people's thoughts. I remember this was said to me years ago, Declan, what other people think of you is none of your business. And I couldn't get my head around that. I was like, what? What other people think of me is none of my business. And it took me actually, I suppose, a couple of days to digest that. But the minute I got it, I was like, wow, that actually is very, very powerful. So, loss is inevitable. People saying stuff behind your back, saying stuff to your face, that could be stuff that's going on for them and they're just projecting it out on you. It's something to just try and develop and not to take things personally.
And again, go back to being a perfectionist. So it's about enjoying the journey, the process, and not just simply focusing in on the ultimate goal, but rather focusing on the steps building to that, and to be consistent. And that's what really builds things up successfully.
So courage, risk assessment, and split-minute decisions. So it's important to be courageous in what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve with your goals, and it's just stepping up to it and just making a decision and then just going, I'm going to make this happen regardless.
Yeah, it's a real important factor for a high performer, and that's what segregates them from the rest. And we've seen it in sport on a daily basis. Not so much now with the moment, but yeah, I mean, we've seen it over the years. Making that last pass, taking that risk, and that's what segregates them and makes them champions.
So true perfection is unattainable. In sports, as with business, being a perfectionist can both be a positive or a negative psychological trait. Psychological trait. Big word for me. On a Monday morning. So it's important to look at that. Are you a perfectionist? I know for me, there's certain areas I do try and perfect things, but then it actually ends up being, okay, Dick, you really went way over the top with this. So it's just looking at that and just seeing for yourself. And for high-performing athletes, it's more about the quest for perfection rather than the actual achievement of it.
Yeah. So again, it's going back to it. It's all about the journey and not just simply getting, not the destination. So really, really, truly can't harper on enough about that. So let's look at some tips again here. So the whole concept of it again, and again, here it comes back to consistency. It's literally to show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. We all do it. I do it. Declan does it. We all do it. There's days there you don't want to be doing things, and it's when you do them, you're grateful you have done them. And in particular, if you go to, if you use the gym or you go for a run or whatever it is you go and do, and there are the days that you don't really want to be going out doing it. That's the difference. The difference between the person who's going to succeed and the person who isn't is when it's raining and it's pouring outside and you're going to go for your run, you open the door, you look out and you go, oh no way, it's too cold, I don't want to go for a run. The person who is committed and determined is going to go back in, layer up, and they're going to go and they're going to do it anyway, and they feel completely different afterwards. So again, it's getting feedback, learning from that feedback. We do it on a regular basis, we get it, but sometimes we don't accept it and we don't learn from it, and we can be a little bit self-critical ourselves, and we can beat ourselves up by the information that we've got back. And again, it's about leading and not just simply following. Ask questions, continually ask questions, question everything, but also to believe in yourself.
And our last slide before we wrap up is how can I grow into the service, project or job? So you need to look at what needs fixing and then becoming the person who can fix it, or leading and inspiring others to becoming that. So whatever might be going on or whatever issue might be going on, maybe you can't be the person to fix it, but look for someone who can fix it, or focus on the solution rather than focusing on the problem. And if you can develop that mindset of focusing on the solution rather than putting your energy into the problem, things can have a rapid positive impact for you on whatever it is that might be going on.
Yeah, and again, this is about being a team player and supporting other parts of the team. And again, remembering that just because you're exceptional at what you do, it doesn't mean that you can't employ some of the skills of other people and bring them along. By doing that, you have a domino effect, and you start to increase the level of performance within a team. And at the end of the day, it becomes a team effort, not just simply an individual effort. So you just got to take those small little factors into account.
So it's all about the quality as well, and creating the best outcome that really matters. So again, it all comes back to your intention around what is the outcome you want to get from whatever it is you're doing. So the key is setting an intention before you actually go and do something. And once you're clear with your intention, the action steps will normally follow. And the people, circumstances and situations will normally mold in around you when you're clear with what you want to achieve in what it is ever you're doing.
I'm just wondering, just as a curiosity, maybe put up the last poll there. It's just to see where people are at.
We might have to skip the last poll because it's the poll function has gone down again.
No problem. Okay, that's no problem.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, we were just going to ask simply is basically, do you find yourself being a perfectionist? Yes or no? That was what we were going to ask. It would be just an interesting one for most people to kind of maybe comment on if they could.
It's just to bring it to your awareness, because, you know, one of the things we love to do here is just to try and bring certain things to people's awareness and bring it into your forefront, because once you become aware of certain things that's going on for you, you can actually do something about it. So that's it. That's our presentation. Hopefully people took something from it and we'll be able to take some steps, you know, on what we shared.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jason. Declan, we now have about 5 minutes for questions. And while they're coming in, can I just can I ask just this area of passion? So, you know, it's easy to kind of say you should be passionate about something. How do you know if you are being passionate, and how should you keep that passion alive? Because I'm sure when we look at our work, we kind of go, are we really passionate about it or not? What does that actually mean? How do I know if I'm being passionate about it?
Myself and Jason are looking at each other here going, which one of us will answer this one? Yeah, I suppose it's something that you have to generate from yourself, really. You know, some people are in situations. I know I've been in situations where, I really don't want to be in this, or I don't want to be doing this, but sometimes you just got to look for one thing in what you're doing and try and get passionate about even just one thing, you know, that will motivate you some bit. It could be even just, you know, whatever it is you're doing, try and focus in on, okay, there's something in this that I know I can get passionate about, and that might lead you on to what you really want to do. Because, you know, you're always going to be in something where, you know, even if you're passionate about it, you're going to get days where you're like, I really don't want to be doing this today. There are always going to get days like that. But it's important just to try and figure out what's the one thing I can get passionate about and what it is I'm doing.
Yeah.
And do you know if you're passionate about it because you feel happy, is it, or you feel motivated, or like you feel
a sense of energy and excitement within your body? You know, you just feel that energy and that, I feel excited about this. You know, but then there can be a massive boom, a drop, but it's like, try and put your focus back in on whatever it is you're passionate about.
I think it goes back to what we were saying there a minute ago regards going out for a run in you know, the rain and stuff. There's a difference between that drive and motivation. You can look at a picture and go, God, I'd like to look like that person, or I'd like to be, look up to that person. You might see someone in an office, you might say, I'd like to be like that. But the difference is, that's fine for a short period of time. The drive is that determination. That's what separates it, and that's what brings the passion with it as well. Even
one example, as Jason was saying there about the exercise, like most of the time, I really don't want to exercise at the start. I'm like, I really don't want to do this. But what I focus in on is the feeling after the exercise. I know I'm going to feel good. It's like we were talking earlier, Owen, about the water. You know, you're jumping into the lake there. You know it's going to be freezing cold jumping into the lake, and you're not looking forward to that. But you know afterwards you're going to feel energized and amazed. So it's trying to focus in on the outcome rather than, I really don't want to do this, but try and put your energy into something that you know you can get passionate about.
There's an interesting question here. Do you think that people are putting themselves under more pressure than normal to achieve because of the current working circumstance? Are people overcompensating because they are working from home?
That's an interesting one. I've seen that as of late. People have started to, I suppose, they feel that they need to prove themselves. And obviously there's a fear factor as well with loss of work and jobs. And the last thing you want to do, I suppose, is to walk yourself out of a job and not perform at a high level. There is a certain level of that, 100%. But I think what people need to do is they need to categorize what's important. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes allowing yourself time to step away, to almost have an outer body experience and to reevaluate the situation can bring greater thought, can bring greater results as well to the projects.
Great. Can I just ask you the final question then, just about consistency, because that is a key one. You know, asking for help is another one that, you know, athletes will ask for help and it doesn't make them weaker. We sometimes in business, when we ask for help, we feel that we're showing a weakness. But just on the consistency, what would you put down as like one of the key parts of how to be consistent about what we do, because we could be amazing on Monday and then we could be rubbish on Wednesday and Friday and amazing again on Thursday. And what if there was one thing to help us achieve better consistency in our work outputs, what would that be?
Habit.
Habit's a big one. For me, it's got to be every single night before I finish, I will write down my next day's goals, as in my next day's things to do list. Okay, so I'm very, very consistent with this. Every single night, it's a habit I create. Like Jason, it's habit, and I write down every night. Okay, what have I done today? And I tick it off. Now, what haven't I done? Okay, when I see stuff that I haven't done, what I do is I move it forward to the days that I know I can do it, rather than leaving it behind. Because if you leave it behind, it's in your mind. And if it's in your mind, you're going to get even more stressed. And you're going to go to sleep thinking, and you wake up, oh, I never done this, or oh, I never done that. And you start beating yourself up. So I have the process of what's called a brain dump. I empty my mind every night, I write it down, and then the following morning when I wake up, I look at that list. And as I look at that list, then I prioritize what I'm going to get done that day.
Yeah, it's I mean, you can't beat that. It's incredible. It's an incredible process, and there's a natural process from releasing that from, as Declan says, brain dump, from the brain to a piece of paper and writing it down. Technology is fantastic. We can get caught up in it, and we rely on it a lot for cues and help and stuff like that. It can be a great help, but there's nothing greater than actually developing yourself and having to do it physically.
The pen to paper.
Pen to paper.
Like there's science out there that shows that the pen to paper connection helps you so much more in the release of whatever might be going on for you, rather than typing. Like, I'm a believer in technology, but I'm a bigger believer in the pen to paper.
And if you trust the process, going back to that again and be consistent about it, basically what happens is, after a period of time, it becomes a habit, it becomes the norm. And you will bring that with you, everything you do, no matter what you do, in relationships, in work, in play, whatever it is you're doing, you'll bring it each time. So you need to create a habit. And it's not a case of getting rid of old habits or bad habits. It's actually just forget that idea, because people try to fix a bad habit. Create a new one and just move forward on that.
We just see the messages here as well. Thank you very much, Martina and Marie, and there's other people here. Kate, thank you for the lovely comments there. Appreciate it very much.
Oh, brilliant. Well, in wrapping up, I get the feeling that hope is not a strategy, and for all the things that you spoke about, like increasing consistency to all the other areas, if you focus on them and think of yourself as an athlete who has to train to get those things, chances are you will improve. Next week is focused on nutrition, fueling your way to a better health. The video and slides will be uploaded to the ICBE website later on. Finally, many thanks to everyone who attended today, and to Jason and Declan for those excellent insights. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday, because of the bank holiday, at the regular time of 10 a.m. So next Tuesday, the 2nd, is our next session at 10 a.m. due to the bank holiday. Thank you everyone who attended today, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks a million. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.